صالحا لنكونن من الشاكرين فلما آتاهما صالحا جعل له شركاء فيما آتاهما فتعالى الله عما يشركون أيشركون ما لا يخلق شيئا وهم يخلقون ولا يستطيعون لهم نصرا ولا أنفسهم ينصرون صدق الله العظيم. The previous ayat, the complete qudrah and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was spoken of. Over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives one example, that from a lifeless being, from something which apparently has no life to it, which is dead, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates life through that, and that is the manner how reproduction occurs in insan and human beings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us the origin of insan and human beings, where human beings started. هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. That He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that being who created you from one life, from one soul, from a single soul. That being of Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. The original of man, the origins of man comes from Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. And where was Adam alayhi salatu wassalam? Our aqidah is, as the Quran Kareem explains to us, is that he was in Jannah. Our forefathers come from Jannah, not from caves, not from ignorance. Life in Jannah was not of ignorance. From the beginning, Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was given knowledge of things. He wasn't, and people in the beginning weren't cavemen, the way how over here in the West and other, not just the West, now this has become a almost accepted phenomena amongst people, that there was such levels of ignorance and nakedness, etc., etc. None of this is in line with the aqidah of Islam, nor with normal rationale. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created insan, and He says, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Immediately after the creation of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he was given knowledge. And if an animals from the time they are born, they know how to hunt and what, or they realize what is harm from what is beneficial for them. They have this level of senses. Then wouldn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also create insan with this level of sense? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates Adam alayhi with senses, with knowledge. And the origins of insan, according to us, was very sophisticated. It was in Jannah. It wasn't in some dark cave and this will happen and that, etc., etc. So هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها. From Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Hawa was created. He was taken out from there, as we understand from the hadith. And through this we understand the importance of having a partner in life. That Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, despite being in Jannah, he felt lonely. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hawa. And from Adam alayhi salatu wasalam she was made. How exactly? That is in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not privy to that. So the reason for her creation is given in the ayah, لِيَسْكُنَ إِلَيْهَا. So that because Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he was created first, so he was lonely. So in order to give him sukoon, and to give him peace, and to ease his difficulties of loneliness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates a spouse. So what does that tell a person? That in a relationship, in a marital relationship among spouses, the idea should be how each spouse can bring sukoon and tranquility and peace to the other. That is the basis of any relationship, in fact. How can I ease the other person's burden? How can I ease the other one's burden? Not how can I demand things and rights and benefits, and where am I going to benefit from? That shouldn't be the understanding, the viewpoint with which you enter into any kind of engagement, any form of relationship. As long as each partner or each party's understanding is, how can I bring khayr and goodness and sukoon and tranquility and peace to this, then there will be harmony. But the moment it becomes about taking versus giving, it becomes about taking and how can I benefit, and it becomes a competition of me versus you and how much can I take, then that is where the difficulties come. The second lesson is that all of those means and reasons and factors and asbab which take away from the sukoon in a relationship and tranquility in a relationship, all of that should be removed, or as much as possible. The more these factors and reasons and means of removing the sukoon and tranquility from a relationship, the more those aspects will be there, the lesser sukoon and tranquility will be found in that relationship. So when we look amongst the community and our society, and when we pinpoint and we see that there are these difficulties that come up and there are issues often in these relationships, when a person digs a little deeper and understands, and when it becomes clear why is this happening, then often a person can very easily highlight that it was because of X, Y, and Z. That such and such means which take away from sukoon and relationship. For some it may be extra marital relationships, for some it may be certain physical things, etc., etc. Whatever those means may be, whatever those factors may be, those must be identified and those must be either remedied or removed. So لِيَسْكُنَ إِلَيْهَا, sukoon is the objective. فَلَمَّا تَغَشَّاهَا, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran al-Kareem in a very eloquent manner, as everything in the Quran is eloquent, explains the life cycle of the human being and the reproduction. That فَلَمَّا تَغَشَّاهَا حَمْلَتْ حَمْلًا خَفِيفًا فَمَرَّتْ بِهِ, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes human life through stages. So when first the lady or a child is conceived, then it's a very light burden. In the beginning, it may not even be perceived that there is a embryo that's growing, that there's a child to be. And then as time goes along, the Quran says, فَمَرَّتْ بِهِ, and she is able to continue with her normal daily things. فَلَمَّا أَثْقَلَتْ, when it starts becoming more noticeable and heavier, the word that's used, أَثْقَلَتْ, referring to heaviness, and when it becomes more noticeable as the child grows, دَعَوَ اللَّهِ, so now there is this apprehension. Pregnancy and a child growing, this is one of those miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we look around us, the entire universe is in reality mu'jiz. The entire universe is a miracle. But the thing is, because it's something which is that what we call the norm, a habit, we don't see the i'jaz in it. But if a person sits and thinks that this, for example, liquid, this water, can you make this liquid into a life such the way how a human being is, and now it has all of these faculties, hearing, seeing, touching, it has rationale behind it, it determines good and bad, it has feelings, all coming from a dead liquid, from semen, from sperm, and from egg. Because it's the norm, this is what happens, is how that's a person does not think of it in this way. And like that, the rest of the dalail kawniyah, all of the cosmological signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're all the same. That right now, that in the winter, everything is dead. Water comes, the nizam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kicks in, and now in spring you see things are starting to bloom. But if someone was never to see this, hypothetically if you can think, that someone who has never seen spring, if you were to show them a barren, dead place, brown grass, there's branches, not a single leaf on it, and then you start explaining to them that this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, they may think that you're crazy. That where are you getting all this from? There's absolutely nothing over here. If a person does not know, hypothetically, if someone does not know how life is formed, and you tell them that there's this liquid, and then after some time in a dark place, there's only blood around it, and then it grows into this intelligent being. They'll say you think you're even crazier. But because this is the aada and the habit which Allah Ta'ala has created in the sunnah of Allah in this world, therefore we don't look at it in that manner. But it is one of the greatest miracles that a person interacts with often, and some see it on a daily basis. فَلَمَّا أَثْقَلَتْ دَعَوَ اللَّهِ. So there is this apprehension that this is such a system which is completely out of a person's hands. It's completely out of a person's hand. What is going to happen in the womb? What will it be healthy? Will it not be healthy? Whether the child, how will it be when it comes to, will it be an obedient child? Will it not be an obedient child? There are all these apprehensions. So any couple, any person, any parent to be, they have these apprehensions, and in one way or the other, if they don't say it by their tongue, then their condition is praying. Right? Their condition is praying, whether they say they believe in Allah or whether they say they don't believe in a God. Either way, in their heart of hearts, there's this longing, there's this desire, there's this call that's made out that they make to what they may call a greater being. All these names that people have given. Why? Because of their arrogance and stubbornness, that they just don't want to accept that there is a deen, that there is Allah, there is a God. Whatever that may be, that there is this calling in their heart of hearts. دَعَوَ اللَّهَ رَبَّهُمَا لَيْنَ آتَيْتَنَا صَالِحًا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a child which is salih, now salih is encompassing of all these, that it may be healthy, maybe has no other problems and difficulties that come through this child, whether it be obedience or otherwise. لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. Surely we will be from those who show shukr and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then when they are given, فَلَمَّا أَتَاهُمَا صَالِحًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings a child for them. جَعَلَ لَهُ شُرَكَاءَ. Then they make shuraka and sharik and partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one way or the other. فَتَعَالَ اللَّهُ عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high and far and beyond and above all of these things that they associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَيُشْرِكُونَ مَا لَا يَخْلُقُ شَيْءًا وَهُمْ يُخْلَقُونَ. Are they ascribing such partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which cannot create at all? وَهُمْ يُخْلَقُونَ. And they themselves are created. It's a very logical thing that something which in itself is created, it's hadith, it's something which was not and it became, that being cannot create. وَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ لَهُمْ نَصْرًا. They are incapable, completely incapable to offer help to themselves, وَلَا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَنْصُرُونَ, or to help others. Neither can they help others, nor can they help themselves. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the understanding of the Quran.